Next thing that's very important to me is that we build a smart football team, that we have a smart football team here. And I know we have the people in place to do that. The first part of that, the first part of being smart is knowing what to do. We're gonna have systems in place that are easier to learn. All right, complicated to the defense or offense that they're going against, or the special teams group they're going against, but easy for us to learn. Because when we can when we can learn our system and we can get good at our system, then our talent can take over. Less thinking equals talent take over, but we need to have systems in place, and we will have systems in place to do so.
Deep underlying story behind this trade is absolutely despicable, and once I reveal some information to you guys that no one else is actually revealing to the general public, you're going to be as disgusted as I am. But before all that, I owe you guys an apology. This is the first time in my entire career that I got some information about a trade happening, and I wasn't one of the first people to report it because, unfortunately, I was dealing with some personal stuff. If you follow me on Instagram, on my @TheFlightMike Instagram account, you'd know what's going on. And if you followed me on Twitter, you'd also know that I'm on 4 hours of sleep today, trying to scramble and do every single thing that needs to be done. And throwing a breaking news trade into the mix alongside everything just further complicates things. So do your boy a favor, sack that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It does wonders for this channel's growth. Subscribe and turn on our notifications, because I'd like to say 95% of the time we're the first ones to ever get fresh news content straight to your wonderful mobile device. And now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? If you guys saw my video yesterday, you'd see that there was a standstill in the Carson Wentz trade, or the potential Carson Wentz trade. Essentially, the Philadelphia Eagles believe they deserved a first rounder for Carson Wentz. And unfortunately, when you're trying to trade Carson Wentz in an offseason where you could either draft Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, or Trey Lance, or Kyle Trask, or you could sign Dak Prescott, Cam Newton, Jacoby Brissett, Andy Dalton, or Mitchell Trubisky, or Ryan Fitzpatrick, and that's before we get to our favorite trade candidates like Deshaun Watson, Sam Darnold, Matt Ryan, Jimmy Garoppolo, and of course, the guy we're making this video about, Carson Wentz. Chances are you're not going to get the return that you're seeking for Carson Wentz, and I documented all this in this video yesterday, where the Philadelphia Eagles were essentially seeking first-round compensation for a player that they absolutely decimated the value on. A player that has been playing fairly remarkably up until this past season, when he just magically threw 16 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. There was never a point where the Philadelphia Eagles came out and blamed anyone else. As a matter of fact, they blamed everyone as much as they could. Instead of scapegoating Doug Peterson, the guy they fired, or saying, hey, Carson Wentz was bad because he didn't have a good offensive line, he didn't have a lot of weapons around him, his defense wasn't even nearly as good, hey, there was a COVID-shortened season. Instead of saying all of that, they decided to blame everybody. They fired Doug Peterson to appease Carson Wentz, then they decided to trade Carson Wentz out of nowhere. And the thing that bothers me the most is all of this just came out of nowhere. Drafting Jalen Hurts last year came out of nowhere. And now the Eagles are in this situation where a year ago they paid Carson Wentz maximum money to make him the face of their franchise, and a year later, after deciding to impulsively draft Jalen Hurts in the second round as opposed to getting Carson Wentz additional help in a fairly loaded wide receiver class, which, by the way, I think it would have been a smarter move to take 2 wide receivers last year in the NFL draft, kind of similarly to what the Denver Broncos did, as opposed to spending a second round pick on Jalen Hurts. But I digress, because what's done is done, and we officially got word from the most legitimate sources, from Ian Paparapaport himself, that quote tweeted and retweeted Mikerophone, that the Philadelphia Eagles have decided to trade Carson Wentz to the Indianapolis Colts for a 2021 third round pick and a conditional second round pick in 2022. And by the way, the conditional second rounder in 2022 becomes a first round pick if Wentz plays 75% of the snaps, or 70%, and the team makes the playoffs. which I think they have a pretty good chance of doing so. So let's grade this trade for each and every side, and I want you guys to grade the trade for me in the comment section down below as you're reading this, and I'm sure you guys could all vouch for my ability to be impartial to each and every side. Let's start with what this trade means for Carson Wentz. First of all, Carson Wentz is quite possibly in the best situation for himself. He is going to be in a scenario where he could pick up right where he left off. The Indianapolis Colts have a tremendous offensive line. They have playmakers at the wide receiver position in T.Y. Hilton and Michael Pittman Jr. And that's before we get to the defense that features the likes of DeForest Buckner, Darius Leonard, Malik Hooker when he's healthy. The coaching staff is an all-world coaching staff that Carson Wentz is already familiar with. Him and Frank Reich have done wonderful things together in the past. So if you ask me, I think this is the best possible scenario for Carson Wentz to go to. I said this over and over again, quarterbacks don't magically fall off. Sure, not every quarterback's Deshaun Watson that's going to put up a magical season no matter how bad their teams are, but there are quarterbacks like Carson Wentz that are actually human, that demand good wide receivers and a good offensive line and a head coach that's not just being overly aggressive for no reason. That puts him in the best situation to succeed. And now, I believe the Indianapolis Colts just need an above-average quarterback in order to succeed. Most of us tend to forget that Carson Wentz was playing at an MVP level for 2 years, and I really blame the pieces around him and the situation that he walked into for his fall off, and I will continue to do that. So for that reason, this is an A+, a grand slam for Carson Wentz. Now for the Indianapolis Colts. I've said this over and over again. Since the time Andrew Luck left, there was a huge hole at the quarterback position, and I believe it was one of the biggest tragedies of the past decade because the Indianapolis Colts were doing so well managing their salary cap that not only did they have a remarkable defense and a remarkable offense, but they had money to spend in addition to that. After drafting Quentin Nelson, after signing Andrew Luck to a huge deal, after all of that, they still had money to spend. And then Andrew Luck retired. Next thing you know, they're paying their starting QB and their backup QB a ton of money just so they could have the slightest bit of competent QB play. And ultimately, through it all, they were never too desperate to get themselves a brand new signal caller. A second-round pick and a third-round pick, or a third-round pick and a first-round pick for a player that the Philadelphia Eagles traded a first-round pick, Byron Maxwell, Kiko Alonso, a third-round pick, a fourth-round pick, an additional first-round pick in 2017, and a second-round pick in 2018 in order to move up for. I think that's a steal. Considering the fact that Carson Wentz is still not going to be on their payroll this year, then I have to give the Indianapolis Colts an A+. Their general manager has been doing a remarkable job. And honestly, I think they're my dark horse Super Bowl contender this year. They have all the ingredients that you need in order to be successful. Yeah, it's really hard to pick a team to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, but in terms of roster construction, the Indianapolis Colts are doing a lot right. They don't need to be forced into potentially taking a quarterback like Mac Jones at the tail end of the first round. So I love this trade for them without a doubt, and we all saw this coming for a while now. Then you get to the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm going to try not to decimate them too much. And I'm going to tell you guys what I love about this and what I don't like about this. What I like about it is whenever you're the slightest bit unsure about your quarterback and you have a competent alternative that is significantly cheaper, which in this case, Jalen Hurts is significantly cheaper. He's on a rookie scale contract. Then I will always be a proponent for moving forward with the rookie contract and the rookie quarterback as opposed to the guy that you're paying a max contract to. The problem I have with this isn't so much the trade itself. It's more the way things are being run in Philadelphia. Howie Roseman has been so bad at drafting players, has been so bad at signing players, has been completely mismanaging his assets, and I could even put him at the same level as Bill O'Brien at this point. Because you could ask any middle schooler that needs to know the basics of economics. You're supposed to buy low and sell high. What the Eagles are doing is they're buying high on a former number 2 overall pick when they gave up that much draft capital, And then they're selling at an all-time low. At least keep Carson Wentz on your team until the trade deadline. Have him play better this year, and then trade him. What you're getting for him is absolute pennies, and he's counting $33.8 million against the cap. I honestly want to be slightly optimistic for the Eagles at this point, but ever since the Super Bowl, they've just been more and more impulsive, and I've been making worse and worse decisions. Now, when it comes to talent evaluation, drafting J.J. Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf, I can't really blame you, okay? Like, the NFL draft is kind of like a lottery. Drafting Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson, I'm going to be honest, I didn't think Justin Jefferson was going to be the best player, the best wide receiver in this draft. I thought Jerry Jeudy would be, or I thought CeeDee Lamb would be. And so far, we were wrong about that as well, and it was a deep wide receiver class, so I understand that too. But drafting Jalen Hurts last year and not addressing the offensive line at all, and selling so low on Carson Wentz is a sign of front office ineptitude. Firing Doug Peterson to appease Carson Wentz when Doug Peterson won you guys a Super Bowl 3 years ago is another sign of not only ineptitude, but absolutely classlessness from an organization. The only reason I'm not giving this an F is because I see the logic of moving forward with Jalen Hurts, so I'm giving this a D, but obviously this is a horrible move for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I can't understand why they were so quick to give up on the Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson era in a season that was hampered by a global pandemic with a horrible roster constructed around these two. It's really a shame because I thought that was probably going to be one of the greatest eras for the Philadelphia Eagles, and one bad year kind of decimated it all. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.